Hello, everyone. Welcome to week 6. I wanted to congratulate all of you on your videos. I have been making my way through them, and I'm actually extremely impressed because everything that we've been talking about throughout these past few weeks, I've seen them in your videos. The way that you're talking to your patients, the way that you're using open-ended questions, the way that you are doing summary and feedback. It's an outstanding job. So I really wanted to commend you all on that because it's really been a pleasure to watch you grow. I know this is not a normal class setting, but to be able to watch you grow from your writing to now to watching your videos, it's really been a pleasure. So moving on to week 6 already, we're going to be talking about families. And families as a whole can be extremely different from one family to the next. So there are many different types of family units. So first, there is a nuclear family unit, and that is the typical family, mom, dad, and children. Or it could be dad, dad, children, mom, mom, children. There is also extended family unit. So in the extended family unit, you'll see maybe aunts and uncles who have guardianship, or maybe older brothers and sisters who have guardianship of children. In extended families, you also tend to see step parents as well. Another one is a single family parent home. So that is where mom's a single mom or dad's a single dad with little or no support. The next one is actually a grandparent family, and that is typically more common today than it has been in the past. So you are going to be seeing a lot of family units where grandparents are actually the guardians of the children at this time, and maybe their biological parents are not involved or they're trying to regain custody. So there are a lot of different dynamics that are going to be in play, and that's what we're going to be talking about this week. So working with the family unit, you really want to make sure that you play into the strengths base automatically right into your first session, because most family members are going to come there already feeling weak, feeling upset, feeling frustrated. Some family members are going to want to be there. Others are not going to want to be there. Some of them are going to see that others contribute to the family more than someone else does. So there's going to be a lot of conflict, especially when you're doing your first session with family therapy. So what you want to do first is bring everyone together, and you want to start talking about the strengths of the family, the resiliency of the family, the resources that they've used, the talents that they have, the accomplishments that they've achieved together, and any desires that they have. This is going to keep them on track to discuss what goals they want to reach as a family and why they came to family therapy in the first place. So by establishing this base, you're going to be able to assist them in achieving their goals. So in the family unit, the systems theory is the biggest theory that you're going to be working with, because when one person's having a bad day, think about your own family. When one of your children or your husband, your wife, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, your mom, your dad, they're having a bad day, it can affect you. And you're in the system, they're in the system, and then the system as a whole crashes. So I want you to think a little bit bigger than just a bad day. If one person has trauma, or if one person has addiction or loss or a suicide attempt or a homicide attempt, think about how much that brings into the system as a whole and how much pressure it puts on that system. And then, unfortunately, each individual organism in that system is going to break down. So that's what we're going to be talking a little bit about. So, which brings me to my point of how do we assess a family? So one of the things you can do is conduct individual family interviews. So I like this tool because you can take each family member aside, talk to them. Now don't spend too much time because you don't want to do individual therapy with each of them. But even if it's 10 minutes each, just to figure out what's not working for them in the system, what is working for them in the system, because sometimes they feel more comfortable to tell you before they tell the entire family. So that gives them a comfort level. One thing that I really do like to do, though, before I even split up the family, is actually have the family come in, they sit down, and right there I'm assessing. So you have to understand when families come in, you have to automatically be in assessment mode. So for example, if I'm sitting in my office and a family comes in, mom, dad, and their son, dad sits on one couch with his arms crossed, his head down, he's sighing. Son goes and sits on the floor far away from dad, puts his head between his knees. Mom sits on the couch. She's trying to get everybody to sit closer, and she's very into coming to therapy, and you can see that dad and son aren't. So even me using that mini situation, which could be a situation that happens in your practices, that we're assessing. So clearly I can see before they've even begun to talk to me that dad and son are having maybe some form of communication issues, or there's something going on there. And mom is trying so hard to get them to work together that she herself feels like she's failing her own system because she can't get the two people she loves the most to talk. And I was able to assess that just by having them walk in and sit down. So sometimes when you read everything, yes, a lot of those tools are amazing, but think about the little things too. So when someone literally just walks in, assess them, see where they're sitting, see how they're acting, look at their facial expressions, look at their body, because it's really, really important. So the next form of assessment you can do is the impact of crisis, where the family as a whole identifies the crisis and everyone is clearly able to discuss the crisis and how it affects the system as a whole. The next form of assessment that you could do is sample questioning. So these are some pre-typed questions that you could have, and you can use these on a few different families just to get a background, such as a basic question as, what brings you in today? That will get a lot of people talking. So once we have a good assessment and we feel confident enough to move forward and we understand the problem, we move into the beginning phase. So we want to make sure that we do the following steps. So first, we want to clarify the problem to make sure that we fully understand it, or we feel like we do. So this is where we share our understanding of the meeting and what is going to take place. The next is we clarify our role in the meeting. So the way that we will try to assist the family. Now, once again, this is where I want you to be very frank and discuss that this is going to take time. They're not going to go through one session and feel a lot of relief. If anything, they may even feel a lot of discomfort after their first session. So you really need to make sure you go over that in that clarifying your role. The next is going to be reaching for feedback. So that's going to be when an individual family member, what they hope to gain from the session, any concerns they have, or if the family has a common goal that they want to accomplish. The next is addressing authority. So this is where you're going to be discussing all about confidentiality, but also helping them understand that you are a mandated reporter, and should anything come up in the session, you are obligated to report that. So I do want to touch on family and culture for a moment, because there are a lot of adolescents and children who are first generation here in America, and you are going to experience a lot of your clientele who are going to be that mom and dad are very stuck in their cultural values from the previous country that they came from. They may not even speak English very well. They may not understand the American culture very well, but the child who has grown up here in America understands the American culture very well and does not want to assimilate to the culture that mom and dad are trying to make them assimilate to, because that's what they know. That's a common issue that you're going to come across. So really understanding that that family's culture, helping them dig into that culture and how they can bring some things from that culture into the child's culture, because unfortunately at this time, the child is assimilating with America and the family is assimilating back to where they're from. So we need to be able to bring them together to make sure that both of them understand that, they come from one place. They both come from two different places, but yet they have a common goal, which is love of family, love of each other, and love of self. And we really need to make sure that we bring them together in that moment. Another family unit I want to touch on is the the foster parent role, or the adoptive family role. So you may be having a therapy session with a child who is currently in foster care, doesn't know his biological parents, or biological family is not very involved. That is a different type of system as well, for the fact that they long to know where their biological family is, or they want contact with them, and they're with their foster family. So that's a really difficult family unit to work with, because you have the foster family who's willing to do everything for that child, and that child's pulling away because all they want to do is be next to their biological family. So that's a difficult family system you may encounter. Also, the adoptive family role. So if they were adopted and maybe just at this age they're figuring out exactly who they are, that's a tough role to adapt to as well. So those are some other difficulties that you're going to be coming across. So after moving from different types of families that we could encounter to assessment, to beginning phase, now we're in the middle phase. We're in the work phase of the family session. So this is just like any session that you will do with your collaborative relationship. You're going to move through your skills. So I think Schulman does a really good job on page 321 and 322. He lists 12 of them for the work phase model. I'm not going to go over every single one, but please make sure that you read that section, because that's a really good section to go through. So in the work phase, you're not going to go through every single 12 of them, but you're definitely going to encounter a few of them in your work phase, working through issues of taboo areas, especially if there's a teenager in the home. There's always talk about, staying out late, drugs, sex, violence. Those are taboo areas for parents. They like to stay very far away from that. Pointing out obstacles. If you have an older child out of the home, maybe they're going to college and yet there's one back. Pointing out obstacles that the parents are longing for the older child to be back and the younger one feels, what about me? What's going on? So make sure you really look at that section, because that's a really good, section. So after the middle phase, we go to the ending and transition phase. So this phase can be difficult for a lot of families, because for the past 8 to 10 weeks, you've been with them, sometimes even longer. They have formed that collaborative relationship with you. They grown to care about you as a person. They may think of you as a part of their family because you have shared everything that's happened with them, and they feel like you assist them. So the thought of you not being there is extremely scary. You are actually going to start to see people revert back to the beginning that they were when you first met them. They may be angry, they may be frustrated, they may be screaming, yelling, in denial. All of this because they don't know how to react and they don't know how to close this chapter. So this is where those phases of change come in, like we talked about before, because people don't like them. People do not like change. So we need to be able to help them move through these phases smoothly, so that they can transition and they can feel confident within themselves and have their own family autonomy and their own self-autonomy to be able to do those things. I always like to say, make sure you bring up that this is going to be your last session, definitely at least 4 weeks prior to the end, so they have time to process it. Even for families that you feel are really attached, even before that, just say, I just want to reiterate to you, we have 3 sessions left. This is what we're going to be working on in these 3 sessions to discuss all of this. And in between that, as you're doing your working phase, you're still helping them transition. You're still working through that ending phase with them, so they can feel confident enough knowing that in those 3 weeks you're going to be with them. But at the end, the relationship is going to terminate. So one of the last things I want to touch on are there are many different types of family therapy out there. There's multisystemic therapy. Then there's person-centered approach therapy, psychodynamic therapy, structural family therapy, Bowman therapy. And there's so many more out there. So, I think that a lot of therapists get stuck on, I need to be a role model in one type of therapy. I want you to start to think of yourselves as, how can I take from each therapy model for myself and implement that in my own work? Because I find that that's the best technique, when you use a little bit from each, so that you're really able to make an impact on the family unit as a whole. All right, everyone. So that's my overview for week 6. I hope you enjoyed it. So what I really want you to think about this week is your own family unit. growing up, what that was for you, whether it was a nuclear family, a step family, a single family, a foster family, whatever that family unit was for you. How did it affect you growing up? I want you to really make sure that you can answer that question for yourself, because once you can answer that question for yourself, you're going to be able to better help families with that situation that you could encounter. All right, so if you have any questions throughout this week, please feel free to email me. I hope everyone has a fantastic week. All right, see everyone later.